Hello, I'm so happy I got a hold of you. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Lucious Showcase. I am Lucious T, and for week 2 of Zelda Clone Month, I'm going to my least favorite console, which is the Game Boy. I'm just not a big fan of handhelds, however, it is the originator of a series I really like, which would be Seiken Densetsu, or, as it's known in America, the title. So, you already know what it is, let's check it out. Everyone always talks about Seiken Densetsu 3, aka Secret of Mana 2, but you never really hear about the original Seiken Densetsu. The fact that it's a Game Boy game doesn't help, and the fact that in America it's called Final Fantasy Adventure. You see, Square hit it relatively big in the West with Final Fantasy, so rather than tempt fate with a new series, they just renamed everything Final Fantasy. And the fact that they added chocobos and moogles into this game doesn't help as well. My limited knowledge of the game going in was that this series was a Mother 1 to Mother 2 scenario, just play the far better sequel. However, my boy Rewind Mike said this game was a Zelda clone worth checking out, which I was a little taken aback by. Secret of Mana is very much an action RPG. Well, Final Fantasy Adventure very much bridges those two gaps. So let's dive in.
There's a lot of games out there, some of which you've never even heard of. That's where I come in. I'm Lucious T. I've been playing games since the age of 2, and I have no life. This is retroactive.
Final Fantasy Adventure is a dark game. People sacrifice themselves, allies betray you, and main characters can die. It's a lot more mature than you'd expect from a 1991 Nintendo Game Boy game. Now, the game starts off with you as a gladiator's slave in a fight to the death. Sadly, your best friend passes away. No! Woody! Why? Why? He was so young! No! 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 Why? Wait! You're not Woody! I do not care about you. You quickly escape and find yourself the bodyguard of the last remaining descendant of the Mana clan. I named my characters Luck and Jen respectively. It is up to you to stop Julius and the evil Dark Lord and earn your place as the last Gemma Knight sworn to protect the Mana clan. Now, I'm kinda hazy on the story here, but basically that's the gist. Now, your main character has 2 buttons, attack and spell or item use. Now, when traveling with a companion, you can use the advice prompt and they will heal you or help in some way. Now, this means there is no way to talk to NPCs, so you automatically talk to them when you run into them. I get it, it's a Game Boy limitation, still annoying when they are blocking an exit. Now, Jen quickly gets herself kidnapped by Dracula, and it's up to you to find the magic mirror and save her. This is a running theme. You save Jen a lot. Whilst doing this, you will have several secondary characters accompany you, but they don't do much, other than the chocobo, which lets you travel over water and take no damage. Now, you will find several different weapon types and upgraded weapons throughout the journey that will help in your dungeon exploring. Axes can chop trees, revealing new paths, the whip can help you traverse chasms, the scythe can clear foliage, and the ball and chain can help you destroy false walls in dungeons, and other rocks. Something only the Matok can do early on, which is a consumable item that must be farmed or bought. Now, false walls miraculously grow back, so if you run out of Matok charges, you are screwed and need to walk back to the store until you get the ball and chain. Hey, this guy's here too, see? Secret of Mana mate. The other crucial consumables are keys, which you can buy or drop off of skeletons. Now, you will come across locked doors that can only be opened by keys, so once again, if you run out, you're screwed. Be careful, if you die or save the game and come back, all locked doors will re-lock, so it is possible to trap yourself. Now, enemies will randomly drop chests that once opened will become movable objects you can use to activate switches. More on that later. Now, in order to open chests, you need a spot in your inventory, so you will need to destroy old items and equipment sometimes. Now, combat can be a little wonky as the enemies do not appear to take damage. Rule of thumb, if you don't hear the invulnerability sound, you are damaging them. It just may take longer depending on the weapon type you are using to kill them. Now, Luck can use axes, whips, swords, spears, scythes, and maces. Boss fights, for the most part, are one-trick ponies. Simply spam heals and potions to out-survive. You have 8 spells you can find: Cure, Fire, Heal, Sleep, Ice, Nuke, Lightning, and Silence. Almost all of them can be ignored, as Cure and Heal are the most useful. Cure heals you, obviously, and Heal cures status ailments. Now, I barely used any of the others. I didn't even get the Ice spell. And about 2/3 through, you get to a point of no return, where the bridge collapses and you can't go back to get it. Meaning, I missed it completely. No biggie, right? All it does is freeze enemies into movable snowmen. Yeah. Big mistake. I somehow got through Medusa's dungeon and missed the Ice spell by using a chest to activate the switch to progress, which ironically my NPC ally messed up for me at first, but don't worry, I made her pay for that. I require your tears, Gypsy. I use this method for the rest of the game. However, chest drops are random, and chests can be destroyed or misplaced. This was a very costly mistake, and I nearly gave up on the game. The odds of getting 2 chests to drop off of 2 enemies in a room of 4 is very minimal. Plus, you need to be able to move them onto the switches. If you kill every enemy, you need to move 3 rooms away to get them to respawn. Needless to say, it took 20 to 40 minutes to pass these. I finally got to the last temple, and I couldn't do this method, as the enemies are locked behind trees, and I needed 2 chests to spawn off of only 2 enemies. However, I persisted and did it. Still didn't work though. Apparently closed chests don't trigger switches, and seeing as how I couldn't open them, I thought I was truly stuck. It was at this point I remembered I could buy frost spell scrolls with 2 uses from a vendor. Please let it freeze enemies the same way. It did. And boy did I feel stupid. You can even control the icicle movement, which is needed later. Pro tip, don't miss the ice spell. The real meat of this game are the dungeon mazes. Almost every one of them has locked doors and false walls, and later the ice switch puzzles. Well, for me, chest puzzles. Man, this guy really sucks at games! Oh, hello! I didn't see you there. Navigating these mazes can be an exercise in frustration for the most part, and harkens back a lot to the original Zelda, a game known for cryptic overworld traversal and maze-like dungeons with false walls. Still, Zelda has a map system to help. This game doesn't. Wrong. Unfortunately for me again, I realized this game has a map system on the last dungeon. Oy. Luckily, you can save the game anywhere, anytime, and load up right where you saved, so once you beat a tough section, you don't have to do it ever again. Unless you die from the boss explosion. Liquid explosion, very dangerous. Still, for a Game Boy game, Final Fantasy Adventure is remarkably ambitious and provides not so much a stiff challenge as much as an endurance fight with light puzzle solving. When you level up, the game generously refills your health and magic, and you can decide to bolster one of 4 traits: power, stamina, wisdom, or will. Now, power is attack power, stamina is health, wisdom is mana, and will is how fast your power meter builds. Something that was taken to the next level in Secret of Mana. Luckily, it only charges once in this game, and lets you unleash a special attack, like throwing your weapon, launching yourself, or a bigger radius for your attack. Side note, ironically, Final Fantasy Adventure introduced the hookshot mechanic before Link to the Past, by almost 6 months. Now, Square kept with this idea, though, and you can see the same whip idea used in Mystic Quest a year later. Time for some Lucious metrics. Game design. Flawed. Being able to miss out on a key item is unforgivable for a game utilizing the Zelda formula. I should not have been able to miss the ice spell, and push past the point of no return before I learned my mistake. Even if you can buy limited uses of it from vendors, you should not be able to complete a dungeon and miss its item. There's also an item you need to farm off of alligators that has an insanely low drop rate. Once you get it, a boy gives you a cryptic hint you can only read once, mind you, to find the desert dungeon. The clue is telling you to do a figure 8 between 2 trees, but good luck getting that from what he says. I can imagine this led to a lot of calls to the Nintendo Power hotline, or more likely, a game-ending rage quit. Throw in dungeons that require limited consumables that you have to farm or buy, and you have a recipe for frustration. Playability. immense. The game feels great to control, and for a Game Boy game is really quite amazing. It does a fairly decent job of gating you off and allowing you to progress with minimal help outside of the aforementioned desert section. Now, combat is simple, yet provides enough nuance with the will charge and boss weak spots to be engaging. And swapping spells and items with ally support can be quite thrilling on the later fights. A truly remarkable feat for a handheld game. Cost of entry, inviting. Copies run about $20 to $30, which seems steep for a Game Boy game, but is totally worth it when you consider that this is likely one of the best RPGs on the system. Compare that with the prices of the other RPGs of the time and get back to me. Just go buy it. Storytelling, refreshingly mature. Like I said, this is a very adult story for its time. This dark tone is further accentuated with amazing 8-bit set pieces like waterfalls reversing flow and bridges collapsing. The story even has some surprising plot twists and red herring big bads, even if the game does drag a bit towards the latter half and Jen gets kidnapped a little too many times. This game brings it and stays true to form with a bittersweet conclusion. Final Fantasy Adventure would be a solid entry in any system's library. The fact that it's a Game Boy game makes it even more impressive. This game would sow the seeds for what would later become the phenomenal Secret of Mana. However, this game is no slouch. For fans of the original Legend of Zelda, you will find this game right up your alley. Just don't miss the ice spell. Taking all that into account from the perspective of a binge-playing game finisher, I give this my Lucious T recommendation of beat it. And there you have it. That's it for this week, guys. Thank you for joining me. I really enjoyed this. This may be my favorite Game Boy game now. I think it upped the ante compared to Link's Awakening, just because Link's Awakening was so weird, whereas I didn't have any preconceived notions going into this one. But let me know if you've played it, let me know if you've heard about it. There is a GBA remake called Sword of Mana, I believe, but I've not played that, and from what I've heard, it kind of screws with things. They remove chocobos and moogles and try and separate it from the Final Fantasy, which back in the 80s or 90s they weren't really trying to do. But anyways, it's a solid game, and I'm going to tease you again. So next week, we are taking a look for the third week of Zelda Clone Month, a very underappreciated NES game made by Nintendo. So, that's all you get for this week, guys. As a reminder, I release a new video every Tuesday, and once again, it's been so nice getting a hold of you. Take care.